Hi there. Today we're going to be looking at the quadratic formula and how we can solve a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. First off, let's talk about what the quadratic formula actually is. Well, the quadratic formula is used to find solutions to a quadratic equation. By now you have seen what a quadratic equation looks like. You have probably solved it out using different methods. This is another method used to solve a quadratic equation. The thing that's significant about using the quadratic formula is it can be used to find irrational solutions, imaginary solutions, and complex solutions. Today I'm just going to be looking at a very simple example that should come out with rational numbers if I did all of my work correctly, but it can be used for any type of quadratic equation, including those that have irrational, imaginary, and complex solutions. Alright, so we've got two things here. First off, we see we have a quadratic equation in standard form. First off, the ax squared, the bx, and the c here, the a, b, and the c are generally integers that are coefficients for x squared, x, and then whatever our constant is on the end here. When we actually start working out a problem, we're going to say what a equals, what b equals, and what c equals, because once we do that, we're going to be able to plug them into this formula right here. This is our quadratic formula, negative b plus minus square root of b squared minus 4 times by a times by c all over 2a. Some of you may be wondering what this plus minus sign means. Basically, when we're working things out at the very end, we're going to do we're going to evaluate one expression with a plus, we're going to evaluate one with a minus, and so we're going to generally end up with two different answers. Sometimes there will be no real answers, sometimes there will be one real answer, but we are going to have this plus minus sign right there as part of our formula. Let's take a look at an example. Alright, so I have 6x squared minus 13x plus 5, and that equals 0. We're already in standard form. We don't have to worry about putting it in standard form. Now all we need to do is we need to plug into our quadratic formula. So I'm going to say a equals 6, b equals negative 13, and c equals 5. So I have my three letters here. I'm going to rewrite my formula over here a little bit smaller just so I have it to work with. Alright, so I rewrote my formula. Now I want to plug in my numbers. The thing I need to be careful about is b is a negative number, and there are situations, such as right here, where I already have a negative in my formula. So I'm going to make sure to use a lot of parentheses when I'm plugging in my a, b, and c. So I've plugged my numbers in. Some things to make note of. First off, the double negative that I was talking about earlier. This negative on the outside of the parentheses comes from our formula right here, whereas the negative on the inside of the parentheses comes from the number that we're actually plugging in. We're plugging in negative 13, and so we have a negative 13 inside the parentheses. Another important thing to note is right here. This negative 13 is also in parentheses right here, with the squared on the outside of the parentheses. A lot of times people will forget to put parentheses in their calculator when they try and do a negative number squared, and you need to make sure that you use parentheses because otherwise your calculator may give you an incorrect result. So we want to make sure that we have this in parentheses here so we know exactly how to put things into the calculator when it comes to that time. So now I want to start simplifying. I'm going to start by working this inside portion right here. I also know that my double negative here is going to turn positive. So we get a positive 13 here now. We still have our plus minus. And now inside here, we should get positive 169. If you don't have the parentheses there, your calculator may give you a negative, but we know a negative times a negative should be positive, so we should get 169 right here. And then 4 times by 6 times by 5. Well, I know that 4 times by 6 is 24, and then 24 times by 5 should be 120. And so we get 12 on bottom because of the 2 times 6 right there. So I still want to keep simplifying what's inside the square root right here. So 169 minus 120 should give me 49. So I'm going to have 12 right there. So I've got 49 inside my square root. And I know that the square root of 49 is equal to 7. So now I have x equals 13 plus minus 7 over 12. And this is the part where the plus minus is going to come in. We're going to have one where we're working out with the plus, and we're going to have one where we're working out with the minus. Alright, so now I've got my 2 separate equations here. I'm going to work these out. So 13 plus 7 is going to give me 20 over 12. Which, if I simplify by dividing by 4, I should end up with 5 over 4. Or, sorry, 5 over 3. A little messy. But we should get 5 over 3 for our solution right here. And then 13 minus 7 is going to give me 6. So I'm going to have 6 over 12 for the second one down here. Fixing that 5 over 3 right there. And then 6 over 12 here will simplify by dividing by 6 on top and bottom, and we will get x equals 1/2. So we see here we get our 2 solutions, just like many other problems you've seen before. We get our first solution as positive 5 over 3, and our second solution as positive